Okay, everyone, we are going to get started with our workshop. We are doing the resume, cover letter, and more workshop today for our Fall 2020 Career Readiness Workshop Series. Thank you all for being here. And I just want to, real quickly, if you can all just put in the chat what brought you here today. That would just give me a good indication of who's in the room and what you're expecting to receive from the presentation today. So I guess there's kind of two questions there. What brought you here today, and what are you expecting to gain, or what are you looking for from this workshop? Okay, we have someone who wants to update their resume. And I'll also make sure that I cover a couple things for you all to note about our appointments, our process for that, our drop-in process, and how you can get that one-on-one review going. And someone asked if this will be recorded. Yes, we were recording this session, and it will be available on our YouTube channel. Within a week or so, we have some student assistants who work in our office who work to help out with editing the video and putting it up. So if you don't see it on our YouTube channel within the week, you can always contact us. And also, if you need help with finding that, I'll kind of show you guys. Actually, I'll show you guys where our YouTube channel is, so you'll be able to access it later. Someone's asking about a resume for future jobs. MBA program, want to update your resume. Okay, great. I'm assuming that you had a resume already pretty well prepared for the MBA program, so maybe finding out some new things today might help you. I'll show you all the YouTube channel in a second. Okay. Another person just wants to know how to write a resume. So there's a mix of people, those who are maybe working on updating their resumes, maybe some individuals here today to learn about how to start one. And I think what I will do right now, before I even go into the PowerPoint, I'm going to show you our website where you can access our resources, where you can access the YouTube channel link, so you can view the video later, and then I'll dive into the PowerPoint. So let me just get into my slides, out of my slides real quick. Okay, so for all of you who don't know, our website, I'm gonna go to our main page first, so you can just go to know how to get there. So our main website is www.csusb.edu/career-center, whatever you want to call it. That's how you get to our main site, and you'll see a lot of resources here. I'm going to show you real quickly the resources that are going to be important for you to know when it comes to our workshops. So underneath students and alumni, and that's typically where you'll go most of the time, students and alumni, you'll go to our Career Readiness Series website page, and you'll see right here our calendars here. You'll see the link, of course, to get into our workshop, which is going to be the same every time you come to our workshop. You can register on Handshake here, and then right here, you view recordings of past workshops on our YouTube channel. If you click on that, it should take you to our YouTube channel, CSUSB Career Center. And you'll see the videos from all of our past events that we've had that we've been able to put up. So as you can see, there's a lot of videos there, and you'll find all of the series from the fall that we're doing now, or they'll be here too. Okay. And Valentina, if you can catch any questions that come in about it as I'm going through the rest of these slides, that would be great.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so let me go to the resume page. So same thing, student/alumni, that's going to be your go-to spot. Right here, resumes, cover letters, and CVs is the resource page for you. And you'll find all of the guides and tips, and our resume samples are here. And you just click on them, and it should open up to a new link or a downloadable file. So I'll show you just real quickly an example. This is something I'll be talking about during the presentation, but here is one of our sample resumes with some tips and a full guided page on how you can put this together. And this is not the only way to do it, but this is these tools are going to help you to get you started, or just to kind of fine tune what you already have and give you some idea of how you can move forward with your resume. So if you have questions about these, you can of course let us know. And we also have the resumes, cover letters, and more PowerPoint here. That was from a previous presentation that we did. There might be some changes and additions in this one here today. Okay, I'm gonna go to back to my PowerPoint. So here we go. By the way, there's two of us here today. No, three of us here today. Sorry. There's me. I'm one of the career counselors, Denise Perez Flores. From the Career Center, we are part of the Division of Student Affairs, and there's my email there, Denise.Perez Flores at csusb.edu, and there's my phone number. We also have Valentina Felix. Do you want to say hi?
Hello. Hi.
She's one of the career counselors as well. And then Christian, do you want to give a shout out here? Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm going into my sophomore year and I'm a peer career educator at the Career Center in Palm Desert. Well, now for both campuses since we're online.
Yes. Thank you, Christian. And he's helping to facilitate the chat and also to check you guys in. And he also is someone who assists with resume reviews and cover letter reviews along with Valentina and myself as well. So this is just an overview of what we are going to be discussing today. Well, more so an overview of the workshop itself, and then I'll show you an overview of what we're going to be discussing. But we are going to make sure that not only can you identify, but you can also learn how to articulate transferable skills. I was actually working with a student this morning, and articulation, that communication of the skills that you have and what you have to offer to an employer, that's where it gets a little tricky. That's the harder part that I seem to come across with students when we're talking about resume writing. That's like the piece that where students seem to get stuck the most. It's those bullet point statements and writing out what it is that you want to highlight about your experience and your background and things that you've done. So I'm hoping from today's conversation that you will be able to feel more comfortable with that process. Also, we'll talk about the cover letter writing, another key piece to your application when you submit something, when you submit an application for a job or internship or volunteer position or whatever it is that you're using your resume and cover letter for. We want to make sure that you know how, at least the basics on how to customize your letter and your resume. And it's not something that we're going to go in and dive deep into today, because each of you have your own background and your own documents, and it would be a little difficult to give you feedback during this 1 hour session. So we'll do more of a general basic overview, and all those very specific questions that come to mind for yourself, we recommend that you'll do a drop-in or appointment. I'll show you how to do that later, so you can get that feedback that is more relevant to your background and your needs that you have and the help that you need. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the different formats, and I'm sure you might have some questions about that, and so we'll dive into that too. And it's just kind of a overview of the different things that we'll touch on today. Okay, so what is the purpose of a resume? And you all, it sounds like some of you have used your resume for different reasons, whether it's to apply for a grad program, maybe you apply for a job, an internship. But it's essentially a marketing document. It's to promote you for an interview in the grand scheme of things. So like I said, it could be used for other reasons, but if you're going to be applying for a job or an internship, you most likely are going to have this resume to then promote yourself to get an interview for that position, right? So you're going to want to have, when you use the word market, think about the ways in which you can sell what you have to make someone buy it, right? And then for them to bring you on and to fill that position with you in mind. It summarizes your history, which is excellent preparation for interviews. So if you know what you have on your resume, so anything you have on your resume can be used in a conversation during an interview, and it's something that they can bring up or ask you about. And so you should know it very well, and it can also help you prepare for your interviews. So maybe the employer you don't talk about everything on your resume, but maybe they hit a few key points, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember what I wrote for that bullet point, and now let me elaborate in my interview about that bullet point that they're bringing up. So it can help you prepare for that. It really give you to really reflect too on your background and your experiences. And it identifies who you are and what skills and education experience that you have to offer to whoever this resume is for. So some of the things that you might use it for, and I have it down here at the bottom, You might use it, well, most likely you're gonna use it for a job, right? Internship, volunteer, or even a fellowship application, a scholarship application, grad school application. When you're requesting a letter of recommendation from someone, you may need to provide your resume for the recommender so they can write that letter for you. It gives them a little bit more background information on you if they need that. And then networking, I thought about that last one today when I was thinking about when would you use your resume? And you may come into situations where you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn or at a fair or a networking event or a conference, and they ask you, oh, do you have a resume? Because there may be something in the conversation that sparked their interest in learning more about you in your career self, professional self, and that could lead to an opportunity that maybe you didn't even know about. So a networking event or an event where you're connecting with people in a career, setting, career and professional development setting, there can be an opportunity for you to share that resume with them. So you always want to have it ready, whether you're going to apply for something or not. You should always have it ready, I guess is where I'm kind of going with that. So I'm going to go into some basic guidelines. There are tons of questions that we come across as career counselors and also with the students who work in our office and the drop-ins, where students want to know, how many pages should I have? How big should the font size be? How should I have it laid out? Is this better or worse? And there's not necessarily one way to go about it per se, but there are some things that you should probably keep in mind. You're not going to want to make that margin smaller than 1/2 inch, and you're not going to want to make it larger than 1 inch, and that's around the border outside of your text, right? Font size, I've seen larger than 22. I've seen smaller than 22. You want to keep it, as the bigger piece on your document, so that it stands out the most. And then the body, meaning the rest of the text, can be anywhere from 10 to 12. Now, this depends on the font size you use. If you use Times New Roman versus Arial versus Calibri, they all look different. A size 10 is not exactly the same as for Arial as it is for Times New Roman. So you'll want to see if you need more space, you might need to use a different font type. Maybe you need to minimize the size. Maybe you want to fill the space more because you don't have a whole lot to fill it with. Maybe you can change your font size and type to make sure, to help you fill the page more. And also that comes into play with your margins too. And then, of course, just like when you turn in your assignments for school, you don't want to have any errors. You can get docked points, right? So you can get docked points as well when they're looking at you as a candidate, and if they're going to bring you in. And if there are errors there, that is just another reason why an employer could potentially dock you points when they're reviewing the applications. So make sure you don't have any errors, and having someone review it is going to be helpful for you to kind of prevent that or at least decrease that. Page length. I know there's this idea around it can't be more than 1 page, or you'll hear, oh, it's okay if it is. So then it gets kind of confusing. I cannot tell you to do one thing or the other. Now, when you meet with different people, and I keep thinking about you, Valentina, I know you're on here. And Valentina has all experience with resume writing, and I don't want to get us to 2 different types of responses. So I'm going to go with what I've gathered, what I've heard, what I've seen, and I think Valentina has maybe had the similar types of things that she's come across and learned and her experience, or she might have some different insights, and you'll come across that with different people that you meet with. If I could think about, I'll go off an example that I have in terms of resume writing with a panel of employers that came to our campus. There's about 10 of them at our sports entertainment panel, and they all sat on that stage, and the students were asking about resume writing, and they had that question. One employer says, no more than 1 page. The other employer says, it's okay if it's 2. The other employer says, no, just 1. So you can't even get that full, straightforward response because there isn't really one that I've heard of. And Valentina, do you want to jump in here real quick on this page thing?
I do. If you're applying for like a federal or state type of positions, they want it to be complete because they're going to end up doing some background checks and making sure that what you're documenting on a resume is correct, and that you're not missing as something on your resume, because it just needs to be complete. So whether that's 2-3 pages, it is what it is. 1 page is what I recommend for somebody who's using their resume to network and to show somebody, here's my resume. The reason why is people don't like to read anymore. And so they spend typically 8 to 12 seconds looking at a resume. And so the most important information needs to be on there, easy to read, easy to extract. But usually you're using your resume so that you can apply for a job on an application software. And so the contents that you're going to be putting in that application platform, you're copying and pasting, looking at your resume from your resume into that form. And so HR is going to extract the contents from those boxes, and your resume is just a supplemental document to the content you provided in the boxes. So really, you're using your resume as a tool to successfully complete an online application. 1 page, if you're using it to give to somebody, like for you're networking with somebody, you're emailing your resume to somebody, especially in the private sector, they only like to read 1 page. But for those state, federal types of jobs, even county, it needs to be complete, which means usually long. So that's my answer when it comes to length. It's and all resumes look different. Like if you're a graphic designer, your resume is going to be using software graphic design. It's going to be phenomenally snazzy looking. But if you're applying for like a state federal job, it's like boring looking standard format resume, that you're going to have to use. So it all depends on the industry, the field, the type of nonprofit or for-profit or public sector. So you need to have like a master resume that's just for you, and then depending on the job, then you customize it. That's a long answer, sorry.
No, I am grateful for, because any of us who work in the Career Center, we all have different experiences, and if I had brought Oscar in here to answer the question, he probably have a little bit of a different spin on it, and even some other information. So I think it's important what you said, industry, the type, you're applying for a federal versus maybe a nonprofit versus private sector. So I think it depends on a lot of different factors in industry, and so I think page length and if you're having information on your resume that maybe isn't as relevant to a job you're applying for, maybe there's that targeted piece that comes in where you want to make sure that you have this position in mind, and you're targeting with the language you're using within your comparing it to the job description, looking at the language being used, and looking at your own and seeing how you are matching up to that as well. Because like Valentina mentioned too, there's applicant tracking systems, so there are matching keywords, and sometimes having that full resume that maybe is 2 pages, it will provide more of that language that can be used, and maybe you have that relevant experience, so then you don't want to limit yourself. But if you're having things on there that aren't as relevant, then that could take away from everything else that is, and then that might just be extra stuff that's there. So, and there's different cases, so everyone's different, and everybody's resume is going to have we'll have a different take on you when we're reviewing your documents as well. A couple other things here. Highlight most relevant skills and experiences. We kind of brought up that point, having those most important things there. You don't want to use I, me, or my, and it's that switching over from writing how you do for your classes versus how you're going to be writing for a resume. It's different type of writing. And you don't need to include your personal information or your picture, and for the US resumes at least. I have seen some templates out there that are being utilized through Microsoft or Google where there is a picture included. I have went around at one of our fairs, it was probably last year, and I asked a few employers, I just went around to ask them randomly what they thought about pictures, and I even had employers at the same table from the same company. One said they like it, one said they didn't. One said they wanted it, one said they didn't care about it. So I I don't know if Valentina, if you come across situations where when you talk about the picture on a resume, but that's the kind of the feedback that I've gained from employers.
I think that if you're doing something related to entertainment, that it's standard. You just need to find out and do your research. Is what's standard for the types of jobs that you're applying for. You know, if it's standard for your industry to use LinkedIn heavily, you're going to have your picture on your LinkedIn. You don't necessarily have to have it on your resume. So just doing the research and customizing your resume for what is standard for that, you know, specific industry would be important. And in making follow-up appointments with counselors or using drop-ins, we can delve into what specifically the type of job that you want and making sure that your resume is formatted to that field.
Thank you. I love having your insights.
Thank you.
So let's see. So we got for abbreviations, you want to spell out these abbreviations. If you have a CSUSB, California State University San Bernardino, at the top of your resume and education, you'll put in parentheses CSUSB, and then you can start using that abbreviation throughout the rest of the resume. Now, I have that statement at the bottom, avoid using pre-made templates. It's something that I will usually tell students to avoid because of different reasons, and a couple other reasons have to do with the fact that some of the formatting can get misconstrued across different formats of what document system you're using to open it. And I had a couple students, just recently where I'm opening their document, and the way I view it is not the way it looks like on their screen versus based on what they've used to make it. And a lot of the text got all either cut off or moved around. Now, of course, if you're using a PDF version of the copy of the file that you're using, it might not look like that. But sometimes it can get messy. It could get there could be things that are missing. So I've seen some templates where it's missing like city, state, and the company name as far as what you need to put down for a certain experience. It might be missing certain sections, or it might not allow you to be flexible to create different sections that you need for your industry or your focus. So there's a couple reasons there. I have a link here. If you guys ever want to see the link, we can share that with you. Just let us know. You can email us on just some ins and outs, some things about templates. So a couple things here. Resume formatting, there's no single way to format your resume. Like Valentina mentioned, depending on the industry, type of work you're going to be doing, what a company might be expecting. You will not necessarily have to have just one way to do it. And you could potentially have that master resume, and then you can have a couple other versions of it to kind of tweak it to your liking. And then you want to choose a format that will present your strengths clearly. And then there are a couple of general styles that we have samples for, and we'll go into those right now. So here's the chronological format. It's typically used for recent college graduates or students. It does help to present your experiences in education in a reverse chronological sequence, and it usually starts with the most recent first, depending on the section that you're in. And then there are some key things here that you'll want to include, like the date, so the time frame that you were in a position, the title, the organization or company's name, location. Then you'll have a description, which also I'm referring to the bullet points as part of your experience section. You can see here, now the sample's on our website like I showed you in the beginning. But you see how it flows from most recent in terms of education. It goes first, your current education, and then right here for the dates for your current position. Now let's say that you had, as you can see down here, there's a project that is also presently ongoing right now, but it's in a different section and it's way farther down below your current position and your professional experience. That's okay. As long as it's in a different section header, so professional experience versus related projects, it's okay that it's not directly underneath it or ahead of it, or above it, I mean. So you just want to be most recent, reverse chronological, based on the section that you're in. Then we have the functional format. So it focuses on skills and professional experience rather than a chronological work history. Organizes most relevant experience into skill areas and provides employment history in a brief format. And then it works, so this one works well for the career changers, those with gaps in employment, those with minimal work history, and also new graduates with no experience, which we want to make sure you do get experience. So something that we want to make sure that you do know is that maybe you don't have a fully filled resume because you don't have the experiences or maybe you don't think you do, or you don't actually have it, or you don't think you have the skills to fill that resume. So that is a really great reason for you to come and see us so we can help figure out, do you actually have something to fill this resume with, or do we need to help you find those things that you can then add to your resume, whether it be a volunteer experience, an internship, a job. Maybe you can get involved on campus or in the community. And these things can start to help you build on your resume and also for your own career development to then enhance your chances after you graduate with getting opportunities coming at you. As you can see here, there's a summary qualifications section that highlights some key skill areas that this individual would want to highlight for themselves. And you can see that their experience down below, because they're basically taking the attention off of their work history. As you can see that they have, if we're in 2017 on this resume here, and you look back at the bottom underneath the experience, it says 1995 and 2002. They're kind of maybe taking the attention off of that area and the time frame, maybe because they don't feel confident about that, or maybe it's not as relevant to a direction they're moving in now. And so they kind of have that there. But they put these up here to put the attention on the fact that they have these skill sets, and they put a little bit of detail on how they've gained these skill sets. And so they put the focus in that way. And it looks like it's very heavy with their schooling too. So they have their completed courses there that are related, also have a project that's related, and it really brings that relevancy into the fact that they're a nutrition and food science major. Then you have the combination. This may be appropriate when you have relevant work experience for each of several skill areas. This can help you group experiences or key selling points together by functional areas. So let's say you want to have a section on research experience and teaching experience, because maybe you have both of those that align with the direction you're moving in. And so you can create those two different sections with that information underneath each of them. And then you got it highlights specialized skills relevant to the job you're applying for. And this one could be great for recent graduates and current students as well. And so you can see there's a summary qualifications on this one, just like the one previously, but this doesn't have key skill areas, it has key highlights. And this person could have made this based on a job description that they're looking at, and what are the key things that the employer is seeking, and what key things do they want to bring out about themselves and their background to highlight at the top to show the employer that they have these things. Now, those key highlights that are at the top in a summary qualification section, it should kind of be like a summary, like an overview of what's to come. Just like you think about a textbook or a book, you read like if you open chapter 1, you maybe see a title, right? Then you'll see like maybe a subtitle, and you might see like a summary there. And so when you think about the rest of the reading you're going to do, you can think about, oh, I should come across, these 5 key points as I'm reading through the chapter. And so you can think about your resume in that way, where you're going to hit on, there's these 5 key points. So in the rest of your resume, you should be demonstrating how you have those 5 key points. So if you say you had 10 years of experience teaching, well, somewhere in your resume, it should show that there's 10 years in total of that teaching experience. If you use Microsoft Word, well, where did you use it? How did you use it? Is it in there listed, and how you used it and where you used it? So those are the things you want to kind of carry through the rest of your resume if you put this qualification section up top. And just some things to think about, how you can go about choosing. I kind of mentioned which one of those formats might be. Then you could probably already see from the list of what those are for and how you might use them. But these are some ideas of how you can really think about how to choose a format. Start with the content and the sections of your resume and write out everything in your background. You can edit from there. So maybe you're not sure what format you should choose, but maybe you write everything out and it actually becomes a format that works for you. and maybe it doesn't stick to a standard format that we showed you, okay? Look at samples to get inspiration and direction. So we have samples on our webpage, and there might be samples out there that are kind of fit for your industry, and those samples might be helpful to give you an idea of how yours should look. But don't just only look at samples, because not all samples will include the possible resume content. So think about the needs of your resume and your your direction that you're trying to move. Your major does not dictate the style of your resume necessarily. I know that there might be those cases like Valentina was mentioning, graphic design, maybe you're theater arts, maybe you are someone who is even thinking about, I'm thinking about the word marketing too, so there's different areas in which someone may majors that there might be a format that might be suited best. I know that I've had students who may have been in the arts major at our university, and their professors have either working out there in the field and teaching, or they've been there before. So they have that industry knowledge, and so your professors are great resources for you to really give you an idea of what you should be doing for your resume. And so here's some more basics. You should have a header that should provide, I'll show you what the header looks like, right? It's a basic intro to your resume. It's your information, right, where they can contact you. Education, if you're earning a degree, you're going to want to put that on your resume, so it should be on there. Your experience, whether that is volunteering, interning, working, community service, being involved in a club, whatever it is, it's experience that you have, and you probably gain something from it. Your education itself, the classroom experience that you have, group projects, there's different things that kind of fit into that experience umbrella. And then your skills, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's some additional and optional areas that could be on your resume depending on if you have these things or if you want to add these things. One of the things here that I'll just touch on, because it is a way to get experience, is study abroad. That is something that not everyone gets involved in or really takes on as an opportunity, but it's something that is offered to you as a student. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend looking into study abroad, education abroad through CSUSB. There's a lot of different certifications that may come into play for different industries and different career paths. So you might want to look into the certification that you should be getting. Is there projects that you've done in your courses that could help to highlight some skills that you've gained that are transferable into a position? Are there professional associations related to your major and your career field that could be helpful for you in the long run to get connected to professionals already, or for you to get more professional development? Maybe you find out about conferences that you can attend that really connects you to the career field. So these are just some optional things that you can have. I'm just going to go through the different components real quick, and then we'll dive into the cover letter piece. So the header, usually at the top, you're going to have that header there. You're going to make sure you have a professional email address. Some students want to use their Coyote email that has the numbers attached to it, your ID number. We recommend that you don't use your ID number, but there is a different email address that you do get along with the ID number that has letters in it and maybe a couple of numbers in it, but it identifies you better than just the number itself. So we recommend that you use that one if you want to, or just create another email. Use another email, a Gmail, a Yahoo, a live.com. Whatever you have outside of the CSUSB system would probably be advisable as well. These are just different samples of headers, how they could look. Now, I have worked with students where they have filled up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of a header, and they need more room for their bullet points, or they need more room to add another experience in. So now they need more space. If you look at the third sample on this page, it's all condensed into 2 lines, right? 5 lines goes into 2 lines. That frees up some space for you. So think about your needs and think about your spacing and what you need for yourself, and to help you decide what's going to go on this header and how it's going to be laid out. Your education section, this right here, I provide you with 3 different examples of education section. This top one here, it's very straightforward. There's not a whole lot of additional information on there except for their degree and a GPA. If you go to the second section, it shows a degree, there's a concentration on this one, so maybe the first person doesn't have a concentration, and then they have this, of course, you're going to have the school there. You're going to have the month and the year when you graduated or you're expecting to graduate, and then you'll have, now you see major GPA versus cumulative GPA. You can use either one, and I believe there are, you know, some industries and some career fields where you will have to put it on there, and for others, it's going to be an optional thing. So you want to think about where yours is at, how successful does that make you look, and how will an employer view that based on if you're going to put it on there or not. Study abroad program. So like I said, if you do end up doing a study abroad, this is where you would place it, unless there's additional experiences that you've gained outside of a classroom setting while you are studying abroad. I've had students where they have actually worked for a company while they're studying abroad. So they've had like 2 pieces there that would go into the resume, and so they may put that in a different section. And then you can add relevant coursework there. And then you see that. Yeah, go ahead. I heard you breathing, so I was thinking, I couldn't see your face, but I was thinking you want to talk. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say something about the study abroad. We really recommended that you do, you know, expand your horizons and take advantage of doing a study abroad. If you plan on applying for an NGO, a non-governmental organization, that's a huge industry field. You want to make sure that your study abroad experience is listed very high on your resume, because that'll make you a more marketable candidate for applying for an NGO type of organization. So if you do not know what those are, look them up. Non-governmental organization. They value people who have done a study abroad, but you want to make sure you take advantage of those.
So let me get to skills. Sometimes they'll be listed as something like familiar with or intermediate in, proficient in Microsoft Word, Excel. So there's different things like that that can be thrown out. Language can be placed there. Computer skills, lab skills. Those are all those hard skills that come into play that you'll have in your resume. And when it comes to transferable skills, those are those skills that you may find across different jobs, different volunteer opportunities, different internships, different career fields, such as decision making or problem solving, critical thinking, flexibility, teamwork, leadership. There's all these skills that, you know, employers are looking for you to have that are general across the board in different areas. And they won't just, and you won't just gain them from one area either. So communication, you might have taken a class in public speaking. Then you might have also, that's where you've gotten your public speaking foundation. And then maybe then you go and get a position on campus where you're maybe a student leader now, and now you're speaking to groups of students. And then you go and get involved in a club, and then you become the president. So then you're doing public speaking in that very applicable way. So all of those ways, those are all ways in which you've gained experience in communication, and those are all ways in which you can, those are all transferable, right? And so you can articulate that on your resume through your bullet point statements, by stating what you did, how you did it, when it comes to the communication you use and how you used it. And so that's where it gets tricky with the bullet point statement writing, and you being, you know, articulating those skills. Instead of just saying, you know, on the top and you're in a skill section, you don't want to just put communication or teamwork or presenting. You want to elaborate, and where you elaborate is in your descriptions underneath your experiences. And so I'm only going to touch on a very small piece of that in this presentation, but that's where you're really going to want to seek our help, because that's where we sit there with you and go through what you have and say, you know what, where did you get this teamwork experience? Okay, you got it from this position here at Starbucks. And so you work with a team all the time. Okay, well, what does that look like? Let's talk about that. How can you then formulate a sentence to speak to the fact that you have really strong teamwork skills, and how could you demonstrate that in your sentence to then show that you actually have that? So that's that proof. So in the descriptions and the bullet points, you want to describe it to then show that proof of what you have, the skill that you're telling someone that you have, right? Yes. So let me show you this right here is a summary of qualifications section. So you can have a general skill section, or you can have a summary of skills and qualifications. There's a handout on our website about this. But essentially, a summary of qualifications is a section on a resume that highlights important work achievements, skills, and experience. It can act as an introduction. I kind of mentioned that in the beginning, and can direct attention to your top qualifications. These are 2 examples, and there's a lot more out there of how you could articulate those skills that you have and qualifications that you have to an employer, and those highlights. So motivated business major with experience working in both finance and accounting. And when they go and look at your resume, they should say, okay, where did they get their finance experience? Where did they get their accounting experience? How do they have it? What does it look like? Strong teamwork and leadership skills with ability to communicate effectively in verbal and written formats. So where does it show that in your resume that you have that? Specialized skills in cost accounting and financial analysis. Maybe you got that from a project you did. Then you go to the next one, professional profile. And they have different titles that you can label these things. This one here touches on the person and the fact that they are a public relations professional, and that they have radio and television broadcast experience. So maybe that's the direction they're trying to move. Maybe the employer is looking for that, and they're showcasing that. Maybe another thing they could add there is how many years of experience do they have. So you can use these sections to highlight, those qualifications that are your top qualifications, and to provide that summary that leads into the rest of your resume. And like I mentioned, on our website, we have a whole handout on this for you. I'm going to skip this one because I've been talking about this kind of throughout. These right here are just like some potential ideas of section headings. And when I'll say this because, like I said, with Valentina on here, and we have another career counselor, Oscar. When I made this PowerPoint, and when I think about a resume, I take it apart, and I have it broken apart in different sections. And so when I'm talking about it, I also think about it in that way. And for some of you, it may not make sense a whole lot, or it may not work for you in the way that I approach presenting this information, but it's definitely an individualized thing. When I meet with a student, or we meet with students, we go off of what you have. I go off of where you're going. So I try to make sure that we touch upon, what is it that you're wanting to achieve with this resume? What are you using it for? What are your goals? And we'll dive into those questions that have to do with you and your career. We won't just talk about your resume. We'll talk about a number of things that may lead into the fact that you are not sure what you want to do with your life, or you're not sure if you want to be in the major that you're in, but you're in it and now you want to try to change it. It might go into your values. You might talk about your personality. Maybe you want to learn more about who you are as a person. So the resume is really a great starting point for us to get to know you, and also for us to get to help you move forward. There's a lot we can do together. So if you see my PowerPoint, it's broken apart into sections because that's the way I approach it. But there's a lot of conversation pieces that could come out of the way in which we approach working with you for your resume for you. So just wanted to mention that briefly. So this right here, this is called the WHO method, and one of our internship specialists actually is the one who introduced us to this. It's part of our resources on our website. This can help you create a bullet point statement if you're having a hard time. So if you look at the first letter, it says it's a W. It stands for what did you do? And this can help you think about, well, what did I do? Well, I created a dynamic new member orientation program. Oh, okay. Well, how did you do that? So you can think about the skills, strategies, methods, tools, techniques, attitudes, things that you've used. What did you bring in of your own to help you do that? Well, I used relationship and team building strategies. And what was the purpose of that? What was the outcome of that? Well, build affiliation and club loyalty. So you can put these different pieces together by using this WHO method that can help you formulate that sentence. And I really truly believe if you practice writing these sentences, because they can be really difficult. I worked with a student earlier today, and that student was having some challenges with creating a sentence about something she did. Well, I had her write out in her own words, not even without thinking about the format of the statement, how to write it on the resume, but just like, what did you do? Well, I did this and this and this. Well, all of these statements, all of these sentences she wrote out actually helped her to formulate one sentence that then can be used for her bullet point. But it actually encompassed kind of everything that she was talking about, but she's had to cut it down and be more concise with her language. So definitely, if you practice doing this, you will get really good at it, and then you'll feel confident. And I think that's what I want to push out there. I would like, and I think I can speak for the other counselors, we would like you to feel confident about your documents, confident about the language, confident about you using this. And if you start getting calls after you've created your resume and your cover letter, then you know you're on the right track because you're getting someone's attention. And so if you're someone who's getting stuck and you have been getting calls back and you've applied to 20, 30, 40, 50 jobs and you're like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it could be your documents. Maybe you're just not selling it the right way. Maybe you're not marketing yourself in the way you could market yourself. So definitely important, just check in with us. Get one review and see if that's going to help or not. You never know what you can gain from that. And I guarantee you'll learn something new. So here's some general statements that you could create if you see the before and after. Well, someone might have a statement that says responsible for campers. Well, that could mean a whole lot of different things. Are you responsible for their health and well-being? Are you responsible for the activities they do? Are you responsible for making sure that they keep the rooms clean and they're in their dorms or their cabins? What is it that you're responsible for, and what does that look like? It could look like that you coordinated activities and field trips for 30 children ages 6 to 12 to improve camper morale. That statement means a whole lot more than this one statement over here that's very short and brief. Operated cash register. Some of you may have had some retail jobs where you've actually operated a cash register. I have done that. I did that when I was 19 at Office Depot. And I operated a cash register. What does that mean? Provided prompt and friendly service to patrons averaging $1,000 in daily sales. There could be more to this that you can add, but that's a much better statement than operated cash register. So you'll want to think about ways in which you can elaborate, provide more detail, use more of the language that is being utilized in job descriptions or internship descriptions, whatever it is you're using this for, that really speaks to the direction you're moving in. Okay, I'm going to stop for the resume. Before I dive into the cover letter, are there any questions that come up for resume writing? And if you want to put them in there, and Valentina, as I'm gonna I just realized the time it was right now. Valentina, if there's any questions that come in our resume, if you want to go ahead and respond to the students, that would be okay with me.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna move on to the cover letter so I don't run out of time. So the cover letter, here we go. Another difficult document to write for some people. It's not for everyone, but it essentially demonstrates to the prospective employer why you are interested in the company or position you're applying to. It provides an effective summary of your skills, experience, and why it would benefit the company. And it also could suggest where your skills and attributes would benefit the employer. So what does that really mean? Well, let's look at this. So what I want you to do, just on your own, while you're at home or in your car or wherever you're at, I want you to look at this job description. And as you look at the job description, I want you to choose key skills and responsibilities to highlight in your cover letter. So let's pretend you're going to write a cover letter for this job description. What are some key skills and responsibilities that you could highlight in your cover letter, or you think that a candidate could highlight in their cover letter for this job description? And then focus the cover letter on 3 to 4 most important skills. So just take about a minute or two to look at the job description and what are some top skills that pop up for you that you think someone can highlight in their cover letter. And some of these skills, if you think about it, they are very transferable. I see quite a few in there that could be transferable skills that you've gained from a non-exercise therapist position that could be in a different environment, work environment, different type of role. People person, okay. Working with people. If you have worked with people, then you have one of the skills that they're looking for. Okay, well, let's go on to my next slide and I'll show you a couple things. So we have interacting with people, team environment. If you were, if in your major that you're in right now, you're studying, if you have knowledge of certain certain subject areas, anatomy, kinesiology. So if you have any type of experience with these subject areas, that could be something you highlight. And you can mention the course that you took and what you did in that course. Communication skills, where did you gain those? Maybe you did take a public speaking class, or maybe you did work with people in a customer service environment, and then you took those skills that you gained there and you're going to now apply them in this role. Other things that come up here, critically think, curious mind, or being curious, provide the highest level of service, root of the problem solving there, work ethic. Are you someone who's teachable? What kind of learner are you? Are you detail oriented? The communication pops up a couple times in here. And so when you're looking at job descriptions too, you want to think about what words are popping up. If the word communication pops up, 4, 5, 6 times, you know that that's a very strong skill, or a skill that's very highly desirable that you're going to want to highlight in your cover letter. If teamwork is something that they highlight a lot, or team environment, then you want to really think about what you've done in terms of a team, being on a team or contributing to a team that you could highlight on your cover letter. So this is kind of one of the ways you can do it, but that job description, position description, whatever it's for, can really provide some insight onto what you can highlight and the things that you can bring out about yourself and your background. So here's some key components. So this is more like the anatomy layout of a cover letter. You're going to have the header. You can use the same header as you have in your resume. You're going to make sure you put the date that you're sending it out, not the date that you're drafting it. And then you're going to have that salutation, the contact, the employer's information, and then you have the contact person's name, or you'll put hiring manager, hiring committee, HR representative, whatever you think would be the best title to use. And in everyone's situation, it's different. And sometimes students find that they cannot identify or locate the appropriate contact person, and sometimes we help them find that. So if you're having a hard time with that piece, definitely something we can help you with. Then you have the introduction, opening paragraph. You have a couple paragraphs in the middle, 1 to 2, and then you have a closing paragraph. And right here is the sample that we have with a little bit of instruction on what you could put in these different paragraphs. And that is on our website as well, on that same page that I showed you for the resume resources. And they're different. So when it comes to resume writing and cover letter writing, there's differences depending on what you're going to use it for. And so this is not the only way to write it or the only way to do it. And this is not the only information that you would include. So this is the basic general format that we would recommend you use, but there are some variations to this, and there are modifications that can be made based on you. So that's why we always recommend, like I keep saying, I think I'm beating the dead horse here. Very, very highly recommended that you come and see us. You can get the feedback that you need, whether it's just for 30 minutes or 15-minute drop-in. You can get the feedback that you're going to need, and that can be helpful for you in the future. Okay, I went through that last part pretty quickly because I wanted to make sure I had time for questions, and then to give you guys the information about our office. Are there any questions that anybody has right now before I just show you the rest of the information about our office and our contact information? And Valentina, if you want to field some of these while I'm just, oh, there's something coming through here. Okay. Thank you for your response. Let me go to we are taking career counseling appointments. We are doing them online and through the phone. These are the different topic areas that we can help you with. Like I said, it's not just what we have a list of. We won't just have you come in and say, oh, I have a resume. Can you look at it? I personally will start asking you questions about, your time at CSUSB, maybe what brought you to the field that you're interested in, what got you into the major that you're in, what are some of the areas in which we can help you? I will start, diving into those questions that can help me to help you more. So these are just a list, but we have other things that we can help you with as well. 30-minute appointments. You can access the appointments by going into your employment opportunities icon in your My Coyote. So you log into My Coyote, go to your appointment opportunities icon, then you'll see the little handshake icon there, and then you'll go into the handshake profile, and that's where you make your appointments underneath the Career Center tab. We can also, you can also receive help from our front desk receptionist by calling our office number. And Valentina, if you want to put that in the chat for them. You can also email us at our Career Center email, or you contact me or Valentina. And we also have a chat bot on our website. So there are many, many ways for you to get in contact with us and connect with us. I see Valentina smiling because she knows what I mean. Here's our drop-in information. We have virtual drop-ins, and then we also have electronic review services. So virtual drop-ins are Wednesdays and Thursdays this fall from 2 to 4. There is a link there. We also have a drop-in services link on our page in case you want to review more about that. And then we have our electronic review services. So if you want to send your resume or cover letter for a review, you can send it as a Microsoft Word document file to careercenter@chsb.edu, and we can get back to you within 2 to 3 days after your submission. We do have a free professional clothing, but right now, of course, we're not on campus, so it's closed. But just for future reference, we do have clothing on campus in our office for you to, it's professional clothing that is donated to us for you to check out for interviews or conferences or networking events, whatever you want to use them for. We have that for you there. And then our events page is right here. Here's the link. It takes you to all of the events that we have, and also our YouTube channel link is there as well for you to view our past recordings. And there is our final page of information. And I'm going to stop the recording. I appreciate you all for being here today. We'll stay on for a couple more minutes so we can see if you have any more questions for us. Oh, I think Valentina can stop the recording.